And thank you for joining me here. I'm Don Ma. Just a few China-related stories to start off. Apple saw a decline in the number of smartphones sold during China's recent Singles' Day shopping festival. And data from Counterpoint Research showed that lagging domestic rivals Huawei and Xiaomi, on the other hand, recorded robust increases. Here's more.
Sales of Apple smartphones dropped during China's recent Singles' Day shopping extravaganza. Data from Counterpoint Research showed sales down 4% on the year during the event. The phone maker also fell behind Chinese rivals Huawei and Xiaomi, according to data. Huawei sales were up 66% year on year, while Xiaomi saw a 28% rise. The price for Apple's latest iPhone 15 model starts at $832, higher than Huawei's Mate 60 smartphone at $763. Xiaomi's latest Mi 14 smartphone is priced at $555. Huawei and Apple did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Analysts believe the Chinese smartphone market is due a rebound after 10 consecutive quarters of falling shipments. Research firm IDC said it expects sales to grow year on year in the fourth quarter. Apple released its iPhone 15 series in late September, roughly a month after Huawei launched the Mate 60 smartphone line. Huawei's product, powered by its independently developed chip, has gained patriotic support in China. Fans argue it shows Huawei has overcome years of export controls by the US that initially hurt its smartphone business. Counterpoint analysts also blamed Apple's sluggish performance on supply chain issues that have constrained the availability of its new iPhone 15 models.
And now joining us is Rick Fisher, Senior Fellow at the International Assessment and Strategy Center. So, Rick, it seems like there are reports that China could potentially be assisting Hamas in constructing underground tunnels. What are your thoughts on that? Is this something that is likely in your view?
It is very plausible. China has tunneling interests, commercial interests, about all around the Middle Eastern region, in Iran, even in Israel. China is building tunnels on a commercial basis. Now, to the question, has China assisted the construction of tunnels in Gaza to assist Hamas now in a brutal, savage war against Israel? Again, this is all plausible. There are many reports of Iran and even North Korea having provided tunneling assistance to Gaza and Hamas. And we have to consider that their ability to do so is built upon assistance given to them by China. And it is certainly plausible that inasmuch as China is very much behind Iran's enabling of the Hamas war against Israel, we have to consider that in many ways China is very likely involved in this effort as well. So I would not dismiss the concern that China is directly involved in the construction of tunnels that are being used by Hamas to conduct the war against Israel. But it is also likely that Hamas has received great assistance from Iran, perhaps even North Korea, in the construction of these terror tunnels.
Now, of course, it would be very difficult to 100% verify these reports, but you're saying it's plausible. Maybe we can go into a little bit of detail as to what are the reasons why you think this is so plausible?
China has begun a great project in the Middle East. The name of this project is to displace the influence of the United States. And China is doing so by arming all sides, by trying to envelop all sides. China has a very large, powerful economic relationship with Israel. This is something that the leaders of Israel cannot forget, they cannot displace. But at the same time, China is arming the enemies of Israel. China is behind Iran's military might, and via its commercial enabling of the Iranian terror state, is also floating Iran's ability to build an enormous military production and development complex, and to pursue nuclear weapons and nuclear missiles. China is also very involved in arming Saudi Arabia to balance Iran. China has actually sold medium-range solid fuel ballistic missiles to Saudi Arabia. If Iran becomes a nuclear missile state, it is also highly likely that China will find some way to make sure that Saudi Arabia becomes a nuclear missile state at the same time. China's indirect assistance to Hamas is likely a tool that China is using to promote its conduct of diplomacy between the Arab states right now. Right now, leaders of many of the Arab states, to include Iran and Saudi Arabia, are meeting in China to try to work toward some degree of peace. China is able to gather all of these leaders because of its military investments all around in these states. China is trying to create a solid front between Iran and Saudi Arabia, between Shiites and Sunnis, to confront Israel and the United States. And this effort would be assisted, would be made credible to both sides of the Arab divide by China's indirect assistance of Hamas.
All right, maybe just one more question. How do these tunnels, in particular, specifically, aid China's goals when it's helping Hamas, construct them?
Ultimately, China does not want Israel to exist. China is opposed to all democracies, be they in Asia, in the Americas, or in the Middle East. By directly and, for the most part, indirectly assisting the Hamas war against Israel, China is actually pursuing its long-term goal of diminishing the influence and power of democracies around the world. And by doing so, by targeting Israel, China is accelerating its goal of becoming the chief and most powerful outside power in the Middle East. With Israel out of the way, Chinese hegemony in the Middle East will be far easier to achieve for the Chinese Communist Party. China is playing to its destruction. It's basically come out of the closet, in a sense, in the last month. China is now Israel's enemy, and but it's not clear that Israel realizes that.
But Israel is winning in this war against Hamas. Is the tunnels having a material impact?
Well, this is just the first. Well, it's not even the first campaign, but it's sort of the opening attempt by China to organize a pan-Arab front against Israel. By bringing together Sunnis and Shiites, the Saudis and the Iranians, China is helping to create a common front against Israel, and this has always existed in their minds, but has never been actually realized on the battlefield. What China is doing is helping to bring this about on the battlefield. The United States and Israel should be taking these allegations very seriously. They should be devoting significant resources to ascertaining China's real role in all of these maneuverings. And any evidence that China is directly assisting Hamas needs to be made public. China needs to be called out, and it needs to be identified as the enemy that it wants to be.
All right. Thank you so much for your valuable insight today, Rick Fisher.
Thank you, Don.
And it seems like fewer shoppers may be lining up outside their favorite stores to snag up the biggest Black Friday deals, and more will stay on their couch with their laptop, tablet, or smartphone. Every holiday season brings more tricks to finding the best prices and more shopping scams to avoid as well. Here's more.
The big retail deals used to come just one day a year. Now some come before Black Friday.
Really, the deals are everywhere. They're online, and you can do it all before you eat the Thanksgiving dinner this time.
Bridget Carey tracks online shopping trends for CNET. She says sales will continue all season, but getting a head start may get you the best deals.
What we're seeing right now is that this is where the hottest sales are up until Cyber Monday, but you will start seeing sales still trickle in afterward because of how competitive retailers are right now.
Before diving in, do the research, make a list and round up coupons, old gift cards, and credit card points that could help save money. And keep multiple browser tabs open while shopping to comparison shop between retailers.
The bottom line is, do a quick Google search. See if what one retailer has is really the lowest price.
Meanwhile, the Better Business Bureau says consumers should use a credit card for online purchases in case suspicious charges need to be contested. If an online seller is unfamiliar, read reviews and look for a legitimate customer service contact. And phishing scams are especially popular during the holidays. Think twice before clicking on a link in an email or a text that appears to be about a delivery issue or an unexpected gift.
And after the holiday rush, it's going to soon cost more to send a package via the U.S. Postal Service. USPS says the changes include Ground Advantage, Priority Mail, and Priority Mail Express. Their prices are going up just over 5% starting January 21st. The service also wants to increase the cost of forever stamps from 66 to 68 cents. And it wants to adjust prices for post office box rental, international mail, and special services. Now, for those non-shipping changes, it first needs approval from the Postal Regulatory Commission. Earlier this month, the Postmaster General announced a net income loss of $6.5 billion for the fiscal year. That's despite a 2-cent increase in the cost of forever stamps in July. And Gap's shares surged more than 30% on Friday as an upbeat quarter gave a fresh jolt of optimism to investors who are betting on new CEO Richard Dixon's plan to revive the retailer. Here's a look.
Gap shares surged more than 30% on Friday as an upbeat quarter gave a fresh jolt of optimism to investors who have bought aggressively since the company named Barbie turnaround executive Richard Dixon as its new CEO. The stock hit its highest level in more than a year, and if current gains hold, shares will have nearly doubled since late July after the Mattel executive was appointed to revive the company. Dixon worked at Mattel for 2 decades and was responsible for reviving the Barbie brand, which re-entered the cultural zeitgeist this year following the success of the Barbie movie. Gap's third quarter earnings release Thursday showed significant inventory destocking, even as its holiday season forecast disappointed. Comparable store sales at its Old Navy brand rose 1% in the third quarter, their first increase in 10 quarters, after the brand languished last year due to out-of-sync inventory. One analyst told Reuters, Gap has been in bad shape for so long that anybody who brings some sort of positive outlook to the company would be good at this point. The company, like major retailers Walmart and Target, noted inventory levels have declined from last year's peak, which had been a significant overhang for several quarters. However, Gap joined other retailers in sounding a cautious note on spending heading into the all-important shopping season.